I want to be here for you.
You're not managing very well.
Let me start by saying congrats on the series. What the hell is it like to be part of a show that is a season 2 before season 1 even premieres?
Craziness.
Freaking awesome. What do you mean? Also, a little stressful too, because it's like on one hand you're like woohoo, but on the other it's like, oh well, people better like this. You know what I mean?
You know, it's really funny because we shot season 1 and and I've learned to say that was amazing or it wasn't, and amen, and release it. Like, just release it, because you never know in this industry what's going to happen. We had a strike. We had a couple strikes. So I just released it. And then when we got greenlit for 2, which without it being our story is very rare in this industry, especially what we went through. And our industry has still not recovered fully from that. I thought, oh, no, it was as good as I thought it was. And it wasn't just me who thought it was as good and had the same thrill in being a part of this project. Oh my gosh. And so now I couldn't give it away and I couldn't release it. And that actually created more anxiety.
But in an excited way.
In a
not
great
like a
way.
negative, excited way.
Good anxiety. Sometimes anxiety can be good.
You kind of feel like a racehorse at the gate. You just want to run and everyone to run with you and see it. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. One of the things about streaming is that it often takes just too long between seasons. And the fact that it already got a green light means that I'm sure Ben is working on scripts and season 2 will be sooner than had they waited. You know the way it works.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. I don't know.
No. I'm very familiar. Anyway, so you guys have worked on a number of things. It's a curveball. What shot or sequence has been the toughest of your career and why? Maybe it's because of a camera move. Maybe it's dialogue. Maybe it's because of the extras. Is there one scene or sequence that ended up being like the backbreaker?
On this particular
Could be on anything you've worked
in
on.
your career.
Bro, that's a curveball. You go first.
Okay. So this may be, I'm just going to preface first, this may be sensitive for whoever is watching who has had any sort of fertility journey, but I come from the theater world. And so I'm a theater baby by trade. And so professionally for a lot of years, that's what I did and made my bread and butter doing. I had the honor of playing Nettie in The Color Purple, and it was the national premiere in Canada. And our lead lost her voice after opening. And as Nettie, as usual, I don't know if you know this, but whoever is cast as Nettie actually has to understudy for Steely because that's the best track. So I knew her whole track, of course, and that was part of my contract. When she lost her voice, I recently had a miscarriage.
Oh, God.
And if you don't know the story, there is a scene in that where I have to give up my baby and bury it into the ground and all of that stuff. Like, metaphorically, but it's ripped from my arms. And she doesn't get to be a mom. And that whole song and the whole scene of doing it right after something like that told me a few things. One, we are always stronger than we think we are. We are always stronger than we think we are. And I think that we limit ourselves by saying, this is as much as I can handle. This is the ceiling. That's as far as I can go. I'm telling you, the strength and the divine nature of us as people, we have so much more in us. And it gave me a chance to mourn in a way no one is afforded. In natural life, if you're not a performer, you never really get the expression of that grief in that way. And as much as I didn't want it public, it could be my intimate story. No one knew. It was my story. But I got to sing it out. I got to play it out for 3 shows. And then I wanted to sleep for 20 years after that. But that was probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do in my career.
I appreciate you sharing that story. And I have no words. I just appreciate you sharing.
We all have stories like that, though. We have stories like that. We've all been through things.
I'm going to go very different tone.
Good. Lighten it. He asked the question. I was
going
going
emotional difficulty. I'm going to go physical difficulty. Only because I don't do well with water. And Ben Watkins wrote a scene for me on Hand of God, which was our other Amazon show that came out a few years ago, where I had to be underwater in a dream sequence for a very long time. And I had never opened my eyes underwater before because I had contact lenses. And the whole thing under how and act and do the thing. I can't. It was very challenging.
I'm gonna go back and watch that scene now.
It was pretty though, and it like gown and like a red gown. It was very pretty, but also extremely challenging for somebody who doesn't deal well with water.
One of the things, this is why I can't act, because I keep on hearing about stories. Like it's not as glamorous as everyone might think it is. Like you sometimes physically have to go through the ringer to deliver a scene.
Sometimes emotionally and physically at the same time, which go hand in hand.
So one of the things that I really loved about the first season is the fact that you have these two male characters, happen to be Black, that have this great loving relationship that are very supportive. And it's just so rare in both movies and television to see a relationship portrayed like that. Can you sort of talk about not just that aspect, but just the writing in general, but also that?
Yeah, I think that is one of our pillars of strength in this show. And for a couple of reasons, they happen to be Black, sure, but they are brothers. And they treat each other like mirrors. I'm gonna reflect exactly what you give me, and I'm gonna make sure you stay on task, and I'm gonna make sure you are the best, and you are operating at your best. And there is an advocacy for each other. There is a protection and a security in the nature that this person knows exactly who I am and when I'm bullshitting. And so there is a higher standard that they each hold for each other. And I love the fact that they hold each other to that standard. And they say, if you're not good, go find someone who's going to help you be good and better and healthy.
And hopefully the people who watch this, other men, I don't know why, because maybe society teaches men to kind of be numb to those emotional aspects of themselves. Women, we tend to do that a lot more than they do. It's nice to see two men holding a mirror to each other on an emotional level, not just like a bro-ish love, humorous aspect of things, but and somebody who is as smart as Alex's character, the character of Alex Cross, to have someone like Sampson tell him, you're smart, but you're not that smart sometimes. Like you have to, even the smartest person in the room needs somebody to hold up a mirror and be like, I really love hold on a second. You're not that perfect. Take a second.
Yeah. Checking egos so that we can be whole people, healthy people.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by the way actors get ready for a role. So I am curious. It's the first day of filming is coming up. What have you both been doing in the weeks leading up to that first day of filming to sort of mentally gain, to get that headspace together so you can perform right there on day one?
Well, mine was a bit complicated because I was 4 months postpartum before we started season 1. So my schedule was a bit different than one would normally have before doing something like this. But when I did have the opportunity, I went back and watched and read a lot of the inspirational characters that deal with this subject matter that maybe are FBI agents or deal with profiling, and thankfully there's a plethora of characters that I could draw from just to see like the influences, and also speak with people who I know do this on a daily basis. Maybe not so much FBI agents, but people who deal with the human psyche and kind of get a little feedback from them about how to do that,
Yeah, I mean, I do a couple of different things, but the short of the long is, one of my favorite things is creating what I call the world of the person I'm playing. And so Elle has memories from childhood with mom, dad, growing up, first time meeting Aldis, Cross, who plays Cross on the playground, because we grew up together, right? Elle and Cross grew up together. And so they have this childhood history. But then another thing that we were armed with, which was so amazing from Amazon and Paramount, was we were offered counseling.
Yeah.
And so one of the people that came on board was Dr. Renee Carr. And I love her because she's a political psychologist, but psychologist nonetheless. I loved having sessions with her because it wasn't just around the sensitive nature of our content on the show. I also got to ask her questions as Elle, like the cognitive dissonance that we have naturally as humans. She is an activist. Elle is an activist. And here she is dating a detective. And the social justice issues that we deal with, it's hard. There is such a gray, murky ground that is in the forefront of their relationship. It's the big elephant in the room. It's how do we make this work? Is this love worth it? Is it worth the work? And so I could ask her questions, even in the psychology of dating someone who's a detective. What are they bringing home? What are they not telling me? How many walls do I have to break? Are the walls breakable? I mean, there was a whole lot of research I got to do into the minds and hearts of this dynamic on screen. So it was really helpful.
That note, I got to stop. I'm just going to say congrats on the show. Hope it's a huge hit. And thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you
so much.
Take care.